So, it will be low cost, and also every day there is huge new number of chemistry and all these things are coming. So, that we are getting low cost, and also time period is also reduced. So, that we can see in later slide how people are going for genome sequencing in a shorter period. So, utilizing this concept like first generation sequencing, next generation, third generation now. So, several crop genome was sequenced. So, some of examples I put here like cereals, legume, vegetables. So, now 380 crop species was already sequenced through utilizing this approach, and also fruits, ornamentals like this. But if you see Indian contribution for genome sequencing, so first you can see that rice genome. So, here if you see, it was contributed by several countries and it has taken 5 years effort, because it is first generation clone by clone approach, based cloning approach. So, clone by clone, back clone was sequenced 20 times to get this information. Therefore, India was only part of this 11 chromosome long arm, and India there is NRCPB and also South Campus. So, both are the part of this sequencing project. If, as we can see how many countries were involved and how many years. So, that is the effort in case of first generation sequencing people have put, and this was the gold standard genome. So, not the draft genome or high quality draft genome, it was gold standard genome. Likewise, tomato genome also. So, the similar way India was contributed at chromosome 5, and also wheat genome. Recently, the wheat genome was decoded by India, but the chromosome number which they have targeted, as you can see which chromosome they have targeted, and PAU Ludhiana, South Campus and NRCPB, 3 are joined together and sequence this chromosome. But here if you, one message is there, how much effort is needed to get the sequence done by several countries, several years using first generation sequencing approach. But if you go next generation sequencing approach, so this was only done by India. So, be utilizing the next generation and third generation sequencing. So, because of next generation and third generation, this is possible. One institute can sequence whole genome of the crop species. Like in chickpea, NIPGR has sequenced desi genome and also wild chickpea. And also likewise several crop I have put, and many more are there now also has got sequenced. Because of this NGS, you can go for sequencing very, and it is only 2-3 years job. Only one country and one group, one institution was involved to get this sequence done. But during the sequencing, because first our objective is to utilize the sequence information in breeding program. So, that is our main objective. So, once the genome sequence was decoded, so what information we get, should we get. So, if you see this graph, so this is, you can see the Sanger sequencing, this was the narrow, but it was broad, this is next generation. As you can see in the left side, there is several strategy that utilized in the Sanger sequencing era, like as we know cDNA library, subtractive library, we are already using this, and microsatellite enriched genomic library, and you are generating full length cDNA, Unigene, EST, so all are present in the NCBI. But the information was very less. But if you go for NGS, so the same thing like whole genome resequencing, de novo sequencing, transcriptome sequencing, like RNA sequencing, microRNA sequencing we are doing, utilizing this platform I have already told, and you are generating huge amount of data. But the information is same, you are getting the gene, genomic sequence, but large amount of data in less time and less cost. So, that is the only difference, but the information is same. And we are because of this you can go up to genome level, but here you are going only small scale, but here you can go large scale because of this technology. So, therefore, now it is easy to integrate everything like structural genomics. So, if you decode the genome, so you can get several informations, which gene, coding, exon, intron, upstream regulatory region, downstream regulatory region, transcription factor, promoter, everything you can predict. Also their function also, so that is called functional genomics. So, you can know their putative functions, you can decode the cDNA, you can do qPCR, RT-PCR, and also you can go for comparative genomics. So you can compare the related crop species like rice, you can compare with wheat, maize, cereals, all cereals, graminosaceous crop species you can compare and see how their collinearity or their reorganization in the genome. So that thing can be easily done through decoding once you decode the genome of number of crop species. But coming to our main concept, how this sequence information we will use in the breeding program. So therefore, I have put a simpler slide to understand very easily. So as we can take one example, so this is take one accession of one crop species. For instance, rice we take. So this is variety 1, variety 2. So variety 1 I get done sequencing, variety 2 I also get sequenced. So if we compare these two, you get different sequence polymorphism features. So as you can see here GA, 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 repeat motif, and here also GA, 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 repeat motif. If you compare this, so here less, here expansion is there, here contraction is there. So there is sequence polymorphism. This is called microsatellite marker. And as we can go later sequence, so you can see there is substitution, G by A substitution. So C by G substitution, and also if we compare this, there is deletion also. So if we compare these two sequence of these two crop accessions, like one variety of rice, another variety of rice, so you get different sequence polymorphism. So that is called sequence based molecular marker that we are really using that in the breeding program, like that is simple sequence repeat polymorphism. This you can see SNP, single nucleotide substitution, and also insertion deletion. So this kind of sequence features, once we sequence, this kind of information you can generate. For instance, these two variety, one is resistance, another is sensitive, for instance. So this phenotype, once you phenotype this line, you get it is resistance, or it is known that it is resistance accession, and it is sensitive accession. So if we compare this, then I can tell this resistant type had GA this repeat motif, or there is G nucleotide is there, but in sensitive type C nucleotide is there, SNP. But this is called mining. So if you take two accessions, so this is called mining. So if we genotype them multiple accession, this is called genotyping. So that means this sequence features you are analyzing in the multiple accessions. So if you see here, so there is several this similar substitution site, similar insertion deletion, similar simple sequence repeat expansion of contraction you can see here. So these features you are genotyping and getting. That's why we need genotyping assay also. So mining, genotyping, we will see later slide what kind of genotyping assay people are using. Because mining means you are just sequence and mine, but you can genotype in multiple accessions utilizing different kind of genotyping assay. And each accession you can phenotype also. So if you associate the sequence features with particular phenotype, this is called association mapping. So you can tell that it is resistant, there is G allele is there. You can see all resistant, there is G is there, but all sensitive, there is C is there. So I can tell G is associated with resistance, C is sensitivity or susceptibility. So these G and C features I can use to select the plant. So wherever resistance is there, I can see that G is there, where is sensitive is there, C is there. So if I want to improve the sensitive type, so then I have to introgress to G type to the C type. So that is called marker assisted selection. So based on this G, we can select the plant. So that's why it is the markers by which you are selecting the plants. So therefore this term I have put. So once we sequence, this kind of term you are getting. One is gene, allele, superior haplotype, and marker. So what it is? So if you sequence this, if it is a gene sequence, so then it is a gene. You can tell it is a gene associated with particular trait. But if you see allelic information, so this is one locus. So like I have told, this is G by A. So this is one locus, there is two allelic forms. So one allele is associated with resistance, another is to sensitivity. So likewise here the SSR, this is all this GA, this is one locus. So there is SSR, there is expansion and contraction in this locus. So therefore this expansion and contraction and also the substitution. So that will leads to create the allelic informations which we are associating with a particular trait. But what is haplotype? If you see this GA repeat motif, then there is G and C. So if you take combined all these, so this will be a one haplotype for resistance. Likewise, I can tell sensitive there is GA and there will be AOG. So there is one. This is combination of allelic types. So that will define one particular trait. So that we used to define as haplotype. And marker I have already told, so by which you can select the plant. So each allele can be utilized as a marker to select the plant to introgress in the particular variety. So likewise, once you identify that this loci or this allele information is associated with particular trait, we try to introgress them. So that I have already told. So like C, you can introgress G type to the C type to make it resistant. So G type could be a donor and C type could be a recipient, or any other resistant sensitive variety where C is present. So that you can take as a recurrent parent to introgress, but the G type will be the resistant donor type to introgress. So therefore we go for crop improvement utilizing this. So this is the basic information we are generating. This is the simple slide how next generation sequencing, because in everywhere if you see there sequencing is one involved. So therefore we are getting the sequence features. So therefore this generating this polymorphic sequence features, we need high throughput sequencing or high throughput genotyping. So if you generate more data, then more reliability of association with a particular trait. So if I genotype less number, then less, because if I take 2, that I cannot tell it is associated with resistance. For example, I have taken only 4 to show that, but 4 will be not enough. You have to take at least 200, 300 genotype to profile them and see that this loci is associated. To profile 200 accession for this particular gene or whole genome level. So that will take huge effort, huge cost, huge labor. So therefore we need cost effective genotyping assay. So therefore we will see later slide how what kind of genotyping assay is required. So coming to basic things, so how this variety was generated. So because first we have to know what kind of variety should we take for sequencing. We cannot take all these things, all germplasm lines, everything. Because if you get rice, there is 2 lakh germplasm. 2 lakh one cannot sequence, one cannot phenotype. So therefore, what strategy should be, as we know that there is core, mini core collections, so how they are constituted. But how the variety was generated first was one has to understood. So I will not go into detail, but as we know that during evolutions from common ancestor, like I have told wild species. For every crop species there is wild species. Like in rice we have Indica japonica, but their progenitor is wild species Oryza, Rufipogon and Naivara. So from there the cultivated one was emerged, and during the process if you see, once it is emerged, then it was go to different location for selection. So it was gone to India, Japan. So the location wise preference was also done, human selection. I prefer red grain type rice, so I select only red grain type. So in India the red grain type rice was got developed, or aromatic rice was got developed. So based on human preference there is selection. So therefore we got particular genotype to popular in a particular region. And also there is breeding effort also. You are crossing and generating our preference type. So like I need long grain types. I used to cross with long grain, short grain, and generating long grain type. I need aroma type. So I used to cross aroma non-aromatic rice to make it aromatic. So likewise different variety was developed through introgression, through human selection, through natural selection, and all these things was got to happen to get different variety. So therefore different variety, different germplasm resource we have in the gene bank. One is Landraces, so that is naturally occurring, but it could be a variety, it could be we can utilize as a cultivated one, but it is not. Also wild species also naturally occurring, it was not developed through breeding effort, but it is the common ancestor. So that is the difference between Landraces and wild species. The Landraces can be utilized as a directly as a variety or cultivar to for human use, but wild species cannot be, but both are naturally occurring, no breeding effort was done. But there is some lines that we are developing through breeding effort, that is selected and breeding lines, which are not released, but it was the stable line. And also there is released variety also. So we know that in rice case 300, 400 variety was already released by a particular agency in India. So that kind of variety also one can, so this kind of resource is available. But if you can see here rice, so in the gene bank there is 55,000 accessions. So all 55,000 accessions we cannot go for sequencing. So therefore the concept of core and mini core has come. So core and mini core means where largest amount of diversity in minimum number of germplasm accessions. If you see the here, so this diversity pattern is remain same, but the number of accession will be less. So that you can select based on phenotyping and also genotyping. So once you genotype them, you can construct phylogenetic tree, and each phylogenetic tree from each group you can select one. Because in the gene bank whatever germplasm was submitted, but that was maybe duplication will be there, because the same genotype it was grown in USA in different name and India in the different name, but the genotype is the same. So that duplication, if you go for genotyping and phenotyping, you can remove, and you can from 55,000 you can reduce to 932. Like in chickpea case, like 16,000 you can go up to 1956 core, and if you select core again go for selection, that 211, this is called mini core. So then the concept of core and mini core has come, because the whole diversity will remain same, but number of accession will be less, and all duplication we are removing, so that you are getting less number of accession for our study. You can phenotype them, genotype them very easily. All 55,000 1 lakh accession, it is very difficult to sequence. So therefore every crop has this kind of germplasm resource, because first when we go for any trait identification or sequencing approach, this we need first germplasm resource. So which germplasm resource we go for sequencing or for genotyping. So this kind of information one has to analyze first. And this germplasm resource, once we phenotype, so there is several variation will be there, like root character, seed character. Some examples I have given in the rice. And this germplasm, once we make core and mini core, you can go for phenotyping. So as we know, we have both kind of phenotyping, like field facility also and also control environment, like greenhouse, phytotron facility, and here in IRI there is phytotron facility, and also greenhouse, rain water shelter for drought experiment, and for root experiment different high throughput phenotyping platforms are there, you can measure the root phenotype also. So because 400, 500 accession, if you go for phenotyping, you need some high throughput phenotyping methods for phenotype them. So that kind of platform is also, so because once we get germplasm, we need to phenotype them. So then you go for genotyping or sequencing, because before phenotyping you should not go for genotyping, because we do not know these accessions are really useful for our trait or not. So once we phenotype them, so as I have already told, one has to go for genotyping. So this is the simple example. If you use SSR, how you can go for genotyping. So if you SSR, so this is one gene, I have taken NBS LLR gene, so we know that it is disease resistant genes, and here GA10 repeat motif is there. If you design primer from forward reverse primer and amplify in the 4 variety, so the 4 variety has resistant and sensitive character, as you can see here. So in gel you are getting different fragment size, like GA10, GA5 based on repeat length variation. Like GA5 it will be less fragment size, therefore lower size. So if you see that all this V2 and V3 type, this is GA5 and this was sensitive type. So if you see here, this is one gene, we are creating 3 allele type once you genotype them in 4 accession. So one gene we are targeting, this is one locus, but you are creating 3 allele. So that's why SSR is multi-allelic. So you are creating, once you genotype in 4 accession, you have get 3 allelic information. So from gene to allele informations, what once you go for sequencing or genotyping, this kind of information you are used to get. So, but this was the gel based assay, because SSR you can go for gel based assay also. So, once you go for gel based assay, and this kind of information you can generate, 1 gene 3 allele information. So, also one can go for sequencing and identify which one is polymorphic earlier, because here we did not know which it is polymorphic or not in between this variety, unknowingly we are running. For instance, you are not getting polymorphism here. So, then this marker was no use. So, then you have to design again the another primer, this marker was gone waste. So, therefore, if you have some sequence information of 2 accession, so then you can compare and see that it is polymorphic or not earlier. Then you design primer and validate in there. This is called in silico polymorphic marker, so that your primer designing and other cost will be less, because priorly you know that it is polymorphic, and you also know that it is will be resolute in the gel or not, because based on fragment size it is 10 base pair, so it will be resolute in the gel. So, if it is less than 5 base pair, you cannot resolute in gel. So, that marker you should not design to genotype in the gel system. But there is other system which is we know that it is, because when you go for SSR genotyping, you are not taking 4-5 genotype, as I have already told, you have to take 200-300 accession, core or mini core. So, generating and whole genome SSR data. So, generating that kind of data in gel system it will difficult, and sometimes most of the markers it will not get polymorphism. In gel we are doing visual estimation, this is 150, 140, this will be very erroneous also. So, therefore, this was the method, this is called automated fragment analysis. So, this is the first generation sequencing platform ABI 3730 XL, in which you can each primer, forward primer 5' end phosphate group you can label with hex, NAD, FAM, PET and FAM. So, here you can see different color type. So, hex will be green, NAD will be black, PET will be red and FAM will be blue. So, all 4 primer labeled with different color you can multiplex and genotype them, and as you can see, once you genotype you are getting only 2 base pair difference. 1 base pair it will be SNP, but 2 base pair at least you are getting the difference. So, therefore, all this is the giving you precise allelic information, and also due to multiplexing you go for high throughput genotyping also, because this is the color based multiplexing, and also you can get size based multiplexing, and you can genotype here. So, 8 primer you can multiplex in 1 plate 96 plate, and 10 96 plate you can put here, and within 2 hours you can sequence, you can genotype them, and all this information you get in the Excel sheet, all allelic information. So, therefore, this was most acceptable genotyping method till now in the breeding program. In the instead of gel based assay you can get 2 base pair allelic difference also, and also non erroneous, and less time you will get large amount of data. So, likewise if you come to SNPK, so the similar example I have taken, so you can amplify them and sequence them, you get different substitution type, SNP type. So, this substitution type you can tell that GTC. So, this is one locus, this is one locus, this is 100 base pair locus, 108 base pair locus, 124 base pair locus. So, each locus if you see, this is biallelic, G by A, 108 base pair it is T by C, 124 it is C by A. But in SSR case if you see each locus there is multi-allelic, but in SNP case it is biallelic for each locus. But how to make them multi-allelic? So, therefore, this haplotype concept was come. So, if you take all this information GTC as a one allelic information, so it will be one haplotype, and if you take 4 varieties, so this is GTC is present in one variety and GCH is present in another variety, but SCA is present in 2 variety. So, but that could be a 3 haplotype, but it is representing 4 accession. So, the first one will be in 1 accession, second one will be 1 accession, but SCA is present in 2 accession. So, therefore, this 3 haplotype you can utilize for associating with a particular trait. So, which trait it is associating, as I have already told here. So, 1 gene, 4 allele type and 3 haplotype. So you can generate this kind of information once you sequence them. So therefore, so generating this sequence information, so we 4 variety if I have taken, so then I go for sequencing. But if you have multiple accessions, so where to go for sequencing? It is not possible to sequence everyone, only one gene fragment, so it is very difficult. So therefore, different genotyping platform was already come. So in the first generation, I have already told cloned amplicon sequencing, that is SNP2 caves, like each substitution site if there is restriction enzyme, so you can digest, but it is difficult that sometimes it is not corresponding, so you cannot validate them. And also there is several gel based assay people have developed, but it will be very erroneous and very low throughput. So therefore, the medium throughput strategy has come, so that is tiling array, MALDI-TOF assay, Illumina Golden Gate, and now we are going for GBS assays. We have already heard that genotyping by sequencing. So this 3 phase, this revolution has come in the genotyping, but I will explain some of the best method which we are using till now. So first is we are using the MALDI-TOF approach. So based on terms you can able to know it is the allele difference is based on time of flight, that is mass difference. Like A there is some Dalton, G there is some Dalton. So if there is A by G, then there will be different mass difference. So based on that you can tell that key which SNP is present in which genotype. But here in everywhere you need the sequence information first, because first you need the SNP information, then you can design primer, then you can genotype them. But without SNP information you cannot go in using this method. So therefore, here first at least in the 2 accession you need the SNP information, then you can design primer. And here based on mass difference, and here based on fluorescent dihex and FAM labeled this Casper assay, so where you can discriminate. And most widely used is the Illumina Golden Gate assay. So here you can go for multiplexing of 96 to 1536 SNP. At a time you can multiplex in one oligo pool or one liquid, and that will go for hybridization in the 96 genomic DNA. But in this case you can take 384 genomic DNA. But in the Infinium assay you can go up to 6,55,000 SNP, you can multiplex in the one solution, and you can genotype 1172 genomic DNA at a time. So therefore, but Golden Gate assay was now absolute, so now it was stopped, like Infinium assay are people using, but in the 2000 to 2005 it was extensively used in the crop genome genotyping. But now we are, as we heard that there is array, that is people are using different kind of array for genotyping. So in the Indian contest in NRCPP, Dr. N.K. Singh has developed this is 50K array. So 50K means 50,000 SNP. So if you see this concept, so 50,000 SNP information you have to give to the company, so that they can put in each, this is the 96 well plate. So each plate, this is one array. So this in one array there is 50,000 SNP was present. So if you take 96 genomic DNA, this 50,000 SNP will hybridize. So it was in the solid support, that was it was more reproducible than Illumina Golden Gate assay. So then you can get this kind of information, like red one genotype, B is your another genotype, H will be the heterozygous or mixed type. So this kind of information will get utilizing this information. So this was also now extensively utilized in rice, this is 700K. So 700,000 SNP was put here, and even more you can put here. So and at a time you can hybridize. So but here the major problem is you need prior information of SNP. So without SNP information you cannot go for genotyping. So therefore the crop genome where there is no sequence information, but no such kind of information is available, so then there will be problematic to utilize this kind of system. So here you need first the SNP information, so that you can design primer and put in the array, or Illumina Golden Gate assay put in the solution, so that you can hybridize and genotype them. So therefore the new concept has come, this is called genotyping by sequencing. So as we heard that here there is no prior SNP information is required, because this is both SNP mining and genotyping both can be done simultaneously, because they are during SNP mining you have to generate sequencing data first, at least for 2 accession, then you can go for genotyping utilizing Illumina Golden Gate assay or array. But here you need not require anything. You take your DNA, digest them, pull and barcode them, and the digestion should be done in FAIK1. It was already worked out in every crop genome. The FAIK1 is the frequent cutter. So this will cut frequently the genomic DNA. Once it will cut, you can barcode them with the Illumi code. So this is possible only in case of Illumina sequencer, NGS sequencing, that they have 384 barcode. So the barcode will be utilized for demultiplexing later on. So each 96 DNA sample will be barcoded. Once it will barcoded, ligated, and you go for pooling and sequencing in the one lane of sequencer. So once you sequence them, then you go for demultiplexing based on this barcode and you get the SNP information. So here the SNP mining and genotyping both can be done simultaneously. So therefore it is the low cost method also, because you are go for low scale genome resequencing also, this method, and also you will get de novo SNP also, because there you are targeting only your choice of SNP, their selection, but here you will get random SNP. But here the major problem is uniformity of data, because this digestion will be not uniform in every genomic DNA. So therefore there will be uniformity of genotyping data will be important, and therefore you go for high scale GBS assay also. Therefore people have now shifted to this whole genome resequencing, as we heard that in Rice case 3000 genome was sequenced. So all 3000 genomes accessions they go for sequencing, and I identified SNP and sequence variant. As you can see, they have discovered 8.9 million SNP. So it was, because it was a huge cost and huge cost involved, because it's like we are thinking on one crop rice, like Nippon bear was sequenced by, but here 3000 like Nippon bear accessions was sequenced, 3000 accessions. So based on that you can get all information. So if this 3000 accession you will go for phenotyping, then you can go for trait association. So coming to association mapping, so what association mapping is, that I have already told. So we need germplasm, genotyping data. So genotyping data could be two types. One is genome-wide, another is candidate gene based. So if it is, we are targeting particular gene, then it is candidate gene based. If you are targeting particular genome, then it will be genome wide. So this, all this information, genotyping, phenotyping data, one can associate it with a particular trait and go for identify which loci is associated with a particular trait. So therefore one has to calculate how much linkage disequilibrium decay in case of genome wide scale, because how many number of SNP should I select in the genome scale so that I can get a particular association. Like in case of rice, it was already worked out that in 100 kb distance you can select one SNP. Gene based, this is not problem, because most of the gene these are 10 to 20 kb fragment size. So you can take 1 or 2 SNP, it will be enough, because there is no LD decay. But if you go for genome scale, how many number of SNP should I select? So for every crop species this is different, like in maize it is cross pollinated, therefore it is 1 kb. 1 kb you have to select one, but that was already worked out. In rice it is self pollinated and 100 kb, but in chickpea it was self pollinated, but it has very low diversity. So therefore we go for 300, 400 kb also. So there in 300, 400 kb, if you take one SNP and go for association, then there will be long distance. So then you have to also go for gene based association mapping. So therefore one has to calculate what is the historical recombination, because here you are taking different germplasm accession. So different germplasm accession, as I have already told, they have different breeding history. As I have already told, the crossing, human selection, emergence from common ancestors. So that will reflect, help us to understand how they are diverse from each other. So that we can genotype through your phylogenetic tree, PCA analysis and population structure. So that we need to done when you do association analysis, to know that whatever accession we are taking, so these are diverse or similar, or these are difference for particular trait. So, for instance, like long grain, short grain rice, if I want to identify genes or SNP for loci for particular grain size trait. So, knowingly I will take all long grain, short grain. So, whatever SNP will get difference long grain or short grain, all will be associated with your trait. So, in that case you are getting SNP for particular trait, but that will be spurious. This will not really associated with the trait. So, therefore, you have to do this kind of analysis to put in your software, so that if your selection is not germplasm is biased for particular trait, so this will be get delineated. So, therefore, so there will be three methods. One is GLM, generalized linear model, mixed linear model, or EMA model. So, GLM, it was population structure, PCA, this is not taken into account, only phenotyping, genotyping data. So, therefore, you will get information of every SNP is associated with every trait. But if you go for MLM, that is Q plus K. Q means population structure, K is kinship. But if you go EMA, so there will be PCA and also population structure and also K value. All will be taken into account. So, whatever SNP which is based on phenotype you have select knowingly, so that will be got deleted. Only the SNP which are significant to associated with particular trait, it will come as a false discovery rate corrections is there. So, based on that you will get this information. So, because of lack of time I will not go into detail, but this kind of analysis one has to do before going for association analysis. So, some examples, as we have already seen, that in case of rice, this was published in Nature Genetics. So, they have sequenced all these 517 lice relatives at 10x coverage, 10x resequencing they have done, and 3.6 million SNP they have generated, and all these SNP genotype, their phenotype for particular trait, as you can see, tiller number, grain width, grain length, and you can see chromosome number 4, this A by T is associated with tiller number. So, they have given P value and how much trait association will be there to tiller number, grain width, grain length, but the genotyping data will be at genome scale. Likewise, also in case of rice, also 413 accessions was also sequenced in for 44K SNP. So, that I have already told that 44 array. So, and also 413 diverse accessions was phenotype for 14 trait and got different associations for particular trait. So, this is I have already told about association mapping. So, association mapping, the basic example is I have told that you have to take germplasm line, you are not doing any breeding effort. Whatever germplasms were stored in the gene bank, that you are making core collection, genotyping them, phenotyping them, and associated with a particular trait through association mapping. But another approach, as we know, that QTL mapping. So, that is also there also the genomics assisted breeding role has come. So, that QTL mapping, as we know, so we can select two parent which are contrasting for particular trait, you can cross them. So, there is different kind of mapping population. So, there is neo-isogenic line, recombinant inbred line, a double haploid line. So, this kind of mapping population, but here you are doing your own crossing effort, you are selecting the plant by your choice. So, likewise, if you see the example, so as if you see desi and desi chickpea, if you cross, it is 100 seed weight 30 gram, and you can see the seed size difference, seed weight difference, the segregation. So, this segregation you have to genotype them this accession and see that what is the phenotyping association. So, that is basically this is called QTL mapping. And as we know, that is speed breeding method is there, because generating this mapping population to real sow nils, it will take at least 6 to 7 years time to reduce this breeding cycle or phenotyping. So, there is this concept of speed breeding is coming, so that you can reduce the breeding cycle. So, for example, if you take these two accessions, so this is resistant, this is susceptible. So, if you cross them in F1, this is C by G. So, if you F2, there will be different combinations C by G, C by G, and here homozygous and heterozygosity will be there. So, this homozygous and heterozygosity you can also profile them and see what is, we can score them and put, first you construct the linkage map. So as we know, first you have to construct the genetic linkage map. So because here the segregation is, we are seeing based on centimorgan genetic distance. So once you construct the genetic map, so this all this plant phenotyping data you will utilize and go for QTL mapping utilizing this is the genetic map, utilizing the join map software you can generate. And once you construct the genetic map, so there is several kind of marker has several density, because if you have high density linkage map, if you put more marker, then it will be more useful, because you will get more QTL and also best data. So therefore, if you use SSR, this will be centimorgan distance, but if you get SNP, you can see less than 1 centimorgan intermarker distance. So SNP is more frequent in the genome. So therefore, if you put SNP, it will be more high density one. So therefore, the concept has come ki high density linkage map, ultra high density linkage map. So you can put more marker. So once you put the marker, so you can go based on these three analysis: single marker analysis, simple interval mapping, composite interval mapping. So but the composite interval mapping was most widely used to know the flanking marker, which was, as you can see here, this is the two flanking marker and this is the QTL. So once you identify this QTL from MapQTL 6 program, so you can see here there is 5 point centimorgan, but here if you see, if you correlate them with physical map, it was 62.7 kb. So here lot of gene 20, 30 genes are there, because one is you identify QTL, so then you correlate with the physical map. So then you go for map based cloning or fine mapping to reach to the particular gene which is responsible for the trait. So in later slide we will see how we have done for chickpea for some examples in our research. So therefore now people are going for population resequencing. As I have told germplasm resequencing, here also people are not going for this parental polymorphic survey and going for genotyping, directly go for each line, segregating line, they are go for sequencing and generating the recombination map. So once we sequence them, you get millions of SNP. So you generate this recombination map, and this recombination map you can utilize for QTL mapping directly. So because here the NGS was applied, so therefore you need less time to get to the particular gene or QTL. So another approach, as we know that another resource we used to generate, that is stealing line. So if you take particular accession, go for EMS or different kind of mutagens treatment, so you get different altered type. So as you can see here, here you can see the dwarf Nagina22 rice mutant as compared to tall type Nagina22. So this kind of resource you can cross them and go for mute map approach or map based cloning approach to identify the particular gene. So as I have already told, you can cross them and sequence them. So coming to our research examples, some of the examples I will take how we have utilized the NGS approach for crop improvement program. So therefore, so the draft genome sequences was decoded at the desi and wild chickpea at the NIPGR, and also we generate several marker resources. This is the wild chickpea we have sequenced and generate several SSR and SNP marker through transcriptome sequencing, and different kind of microsatellite marker, that is first called unigene derived microsatellite marker. So here the EST sequence can be clustered and unigenes can be generated, and unigenes you can see microsatellite repeat motif and UGMS marker can be generated, and it will be highly specific because the EST was generated. And also we generated several kind of genic non-coding marker, because unigene derived microsatellite marker, this is not polymorphic because it is present in the coding region. So you can design primer from the non-coding region of the gene like promoter 5' UTR. So you get more polymorphism. And likewise I have already told in silico polymorphic markers, so we have exploited them in chickpea also. So because when you go for breeding program, first we need informative marker system for genotype them. So therefore in chickpea we would try to develop different informative marker system, so that because chickpea the SSR is very less polymorphic. If you utilize 100 markers, only 10 will become polymorphic even in the gel in very difficult situation. So therefore, we try to develop several kind of marker which we can utilize in the breeding program. So therefore, this database we have developed to different SSR marker, and also transcription factors, we different coding domain and upstream regulatory region, we see SSR, and you can see there is high polymorphic, 30% polymorphic potential is there. So and also we target that non-coding region different cis regulatory element, there also the GA repeat motif is there. So that is called conserved non-coding microsatellite marker. So likewise, that huge information is generated and also submitted in the public domain, so that people can utilize in their study. So like in several crop we have put, and also intron length polymorphic marker also we have developed targeting intron. So intron spanning marker and intron length polymorphic marker, and also we try to develop several kind of SNP marker. Once we developed SSR, we go for SNP. So we go for genome resequencing, GBS assay we have optimized and identified several SNP data. So that genotyping by sequencing we have optimized in case of chickpea and identify huge number of SNP. And also we developed insertion deletion marker, because once you have sequence data you can compare and you develop insertion deletion marker. And recently we developed CN-SNP marker. So in the conserved non-coding region there is SNP is there. So that is cis regulatory element. So that also one can target and design marker. So coming to how we have utilized this in our breeding program. So first we can see we are targeting two traits. One is high seed weight and high seed number per plant, and another is ideal plant architecture, so that you can make the plant less narrow, less width or narrow width, so that you can accommodate more number of plant. One is to increase yield per plant, another is increase not increase yield per plant, but you can accommodate more number of plant per hectare, so that productivity can be increased. So both way we are working to improve the productivity or yield in chickpea. So quickly I will go, because I have already told to our research program we are already utilizing different germplasm lines, association panel, mapping population we have generated, phenotype them for several trait, and also genotyping data, and also we go for QTL mapping, association mapping and fine mapping. Once we get to the gene, we validate them in the two way. One is we are going for functional validation to understand their gene function, another way we are directly introducing them in the breeding program. So I will directly come into our resources. So we have this kind of resource, association panel in chickpea, we have different mapping population and also one mutant population. So in case of chickpea, so that I have already told. So in crop genome, these three kind of resources you need to start breeding program. So once you have this kind of resource, you go for phenotype them for several trait as we have done, and multi-locational phenotyping for this trait we have done for seed weight, pod number, seed number, all these trait. So once you genotype them and you get that seed weight and pod number variation is there, and therefore we genotyping them this all this SSN and generate that is 80,000 6 million SNP, out of 6 million that is 83,000 SNP is present in all SSN. So that for association mapping we have utilized that, and first we do this PCA and all this analysis I have already told. So once we have done that, we go for association, we got 20 genomic loci for pod number, seed weight. But more importantly, we got this SNP, this is in ABC transporter gene, which is associated with the seed weight. So this seed weight loci, this is synonymous SNP, so it is not changing the amino acid, but it is CA by G changes, and it was again revalidated through gene by gene sequencing. It is really this SNP is associated with particular trait or not. So it is associated with the seed weight. So once we done through association mapping, so you go for QTL mapping. So we done Desi low seed weight, high seed weight cross, generated yield, Kabuli low seed weight, high seed weight. Because Desi Kabuli, these are all both are low and high seed weight. Therefore we go separately. Desi low high, Kabuli low high. And we see that SNPs and this map density you can see, and you go for QTL mapping and identify QTL for seed weight. So the similar seed weight QTL at the chromosome number 2 we get So this is chromosome number CA SW2.4. So here this A by G is there, this ABC transporter, but this QTL region is 1.8 centimorgan and it is about to 437.7 kb and there is 46 gene were there. So therefore we go to narrow down them to reach to the really ABC transporter gene is responsible or not. So therefore we go for fine mapping. So therefore this region we go for sequencing in different NGS platform utilizing this 291 SSN which has low and high seed weight. This is called QTL region specific association analysis, because in QTL you are associating the association data, because this QTL region you are sequencing in multiple SSN, but QTL was derived from only 2 SSN biparental, but if you sequence in multiple SSN you get multiple allelic information, so that it will become high resolution, so that you can reduce them from 437 kb to, as you can see here, how only 70.6 kb, only 11 gene. So once we reach to the 11 gene, so that QTL region we try to introgress and develop NILs, neoisogenic line, and that neoisogenic line once we genotype them and you reduce to 0.6 centimorgan and it is associated with 17.2 kb and here only one gene is there. This is called ABC transporter gene. So as we can see that in association mapping also we are getting the same thing and also QTL mapping. So both way we have got validated that. So therefore once we confirm that this ABC transporter gene is responsible for particular seed weight trait in chickpea, so we try to go for functional genomic analysis. This ABC transporter gene, what kind of gene? It is what kind of domain? So we see that it is transmembrane domain and it is encoding CA ABCC type and it is present in chromosome number 2 and it is 6 type. So in genome there is several types of ABCC type. So this is which kind of ABCC? First you want to know. So once we see that it is ABCC type, we sequence them in several this 291 SSN to create haplotype. So that I have already told that you can create haplotype, and this haplotype C it is associated with high seed weight and it is present in North Indian chickpea variety. So therefore we take this high seed weight haplotype for breeding program, because it is present in the North Indian context, it will be in all variety it was present. So therefore this haplotype we have taken. So this is A will be low seed weight type, this is high seed weight, B is medium seed weight type. So therefore this high seed weight type we have recurrent parent for donor and recurrent parent and donor we have introgressed this haplotype and several haplotypes you are created. So this is low seed weight Desi haplotype, high seed weight Desi haplotype, low seed weight Kabuli type, low seed weight haplotype, a high seed weight Kabuli haplotype. So all these 4 now you can utilize for your functional genomic study, because in chickpea this is difficult to create transgenic because of recalcitrant letters. So for understanding the gene function, if you create neoisogenic line for particular gene introgression line, so then you can understand your gene. So these 4 line you have now utilized in our breeding program. For first we have analyzed them in existing high yielding variety how it is performing, because we have improved for seed weight, but it may be for other trait it may be undesirable like plant height, other traits. So therefore we compare them with our existing high yielding variety to know that it will be superior. Only this trait is changing or other trait is changing. The trait which we are targeting, that should only change, not other trait. If it will change, then if it is desirable, then okay. If it is undesirable, then this line will be not will be preferred by anybody. So therefore this 4 line we go for our functional genomic study. So therefore we go for expression analysis, different seed developmental and assay, and as we can see we go for this gene is encoding glutathione conjugate. So then we see that this glutathione conjugate is in high seed weight, the glutathione estimation, glutathione is enhancing or not, and also the transport, glutathione transport is there or not, yeast complementation assay, and also we done localization which the gene is localized at where, and all this analysis we done, and particularly we get this information. So in large seed weight type, that higher expression of this gene, once it is higher expression there is more transporter of glutathione conjugate. So once it will transport more glutathione conjugate, there is more breakdown of sulfur rich compounds. So, therefore, instead of getting high seed weight, it is also giving high protein content also because of more sulfur breakdown. So, therefore, this gene are not only useful for your increasing seed weight and yield, but also in improving protein content also. So, this line was now entered in the ICR varietal trial. So, there it was evaluated in this AVT1 trial, and as you can see this data. So, from JG11 recurrent parent, it was somewhat useful in terms of yield, 100 seed weight, days to flowering and other disease resistant trait. So, now it will go to AVT2 for varietal trial, and also we try to introgress the similar type in the Kabuli, because the extra large Kabuli is more useful because of more export value. So, therefore, we try to introgress the extra large Kabuli and the similar impact, and also this one now it will go to ICR varietal trial. And as I have already told, we have during this process we have tried to develop several quick strategy, because our major objective is to expedite the breeding program. So, when you identify QTL, the major problem is how to find map. You need to generate more mapping population, more genotyping data. So, therefore, I have already told one QTL region specific association analysis. That strategy we have developed, and this QTL of seed weight, this is 239 1 point kb, and here there is 40 genes are there. So, once we do QTL region specific association analysis, we reduce them to particular kb, that is 62.7 kb, and here only 6 genes are lying. This out of these 6 genes, one gene is giving differential expression in the seed developmental stages, and therefore, we narrow down to particular gene quickly. So, here this NGS strategy was applied to narrow down to the particular QTL to the particular gene. Likewise, I have already told we have integrated candidate gene based association analysis, QTL mapping, expression profiling, haplotyping to get a particular gene. So, for pod number also we have identified the cellulose synthase gene, and also we have implemented the QTL-seq approach. So, where you can take the extreme type, low pod number type and high pod number homozygous line. So, you can bulk them and go for sequencing, and based on SNP index analysis you can calculate where is the major QTL, and if you take two mapping population and one parent common, you can validate them, which QTL is present in which chromosome, and at a time you can validate that QTL in multiple genetic background. So, utilizing this NGS strategy, you can quickly reach to the QTL. Instead of genotyping all the segregating line, you can only sequence this parental, this parents and this bulk, the extreme type. So, likewise we have also done the similar way in the flowering time also chickpea, and also we get several kind of genes like early flowering one, flowering locus D, and this early flowering one now is emerged to be a major locus for flowering time regulation in chickpea. And also recently we try to implement this stem cell regulation. So, that is we can know that clavata and USCEL gene. So, these are the zootypical meristem regulated genes, so which regulate the flowering time, and also there is differentiation in cell division also. So, therefore, this clavata 3 gene was also identified, and which giving early flowering and late flowering, also differentiation, and early flowering high flower number. So, that yield is enhanced. So, it was published in Theoretical Applied Genetics recently. And also the similar way we have dissected the seed color of chickpea. So, as you can see this chickpea seed color, and we put association, QTL mapping, haplotyping, and we got this is the beige color type, this is Kabuli type, and this is yellow brown, this is Desi type. So, this kind of haplotype you can generate. And recently this I have already told, we have identified one narrow canopy width gene, that is BT-hydroxy loop, it is regulating the USCEL, the master regulation stem cell. So, where you can generate the narrow plant width type. So that you can accommodate more number of plant per hectare. So, in this year last 5 to 7 years, we have dissected several traits that I have given some example of association, QTL mapping, molecular haplotyping, all we have integrated, and also functional genomics approach to know that the gene how they are regulating. So, we identify several QTL for several traits as is enlisted here. and it was published in the several journals, and now we are trying to introgress them. This QTL, major QTL, as you can see, this is ICC 8261, this is Kabuli type, it is cultivated in Turkey. So, from there we can put beige color to our improved variety. So, therefore, the JG11 one improved variety we have taken to introgress all these QTL to develop them to several trade like early flowering, late flowering, and also recently we are targeting different determinant types, semi-determinant, to improve the plant architecture so that chickpea can be utilized for mechanical harvesting. And as we can already know that now we are using this, I have already explained about marker assisted selection, but now we are going for genomic selection also utilizing this training population. So, I will not explain it in detail, but so in summarize, as you can see, there is the breeding improvement was done. So, earlier we are only using random marker, PCR based marker, then we go for Sanger sequencing, then multiple genotype. Now you are sequencing them all because of NGS or third generation sequencing. Therefore, you are expediting the breeding process. And as I have already told this, I have already explained in the first slide. So, I have put tick here because this information now definitely can be utilized for crop improvement, as I have already explained in case of ABC transporter, one example. And this is major hurdles were there. So, as we know the genotyping. So, for breeder it is not difficult, very difficult to go for SNP genotyping. So, which kind of marker one can has to select SSR or SNP for genotyping, and also there is several climate change and other things are there. So, therefore, the phenotyping also need very precise. So, that is also there, and majorly if you have huge amount of data, enormous data, then you need powerful computational genomics and bioinformatics tool, because getting from sequence data, raw data to SNP information and utilize them in breeding program, you need lot of software, lot of computational expertise. So, that kind of resource also one has to generate. So, therefore, there is speed breeding, I have already told, this is people are utilizing for phenotyping and reducing the breeding cycle. And for genotyping, this National Genomics and Genotyping Facility was established at NIPGR. So, there you can go for genotyping. So, there is several objectives are there to genotyping, DNA fingerprinting, and also this downstream analysis, QTL association mapping, all these that breeder can come there and go for consultancy and go for genotyping also, and their downstream analysis. As I have told, these hurdles are there, so that can be rectified. And also therefore, several kind of platform, as I have already told you, like Affymetrix, Gene Titan Array, Illumina NGSSA, and also ABI 3730 XL, and several kind of platform will be put there, so that genotyping can process or breeding effort can be expedited. So, lastly, I want to acknowledge my all my supervisors, and from whom I have learned these things from these years. So, Dr. T. Mahapatra, DG ICR, and Professor Akhilesh Tyagi, and most importantly Dr. A.K. Singh, Professor A.K. Singh, and so these all are my PhD guidance, and till now they are guiding me to do this kind of analysis. And importantly, I want to acknowledge my collaborators from ICRISAT, Dr. Hari Upadhyay, and IRI, Dr. Bharadwaj and Dr. Shailesh Tripathi, and from NBPGR, Dr. Mohor Singh. So, all they are providing me the germplasm accession and phenotyping data for generating this kind of research, because we need multi-locational data to generate high throughput phenotyping data and also all this. And lastly, I thanks to all my students and PhD which are working, who are working day to night, and also financial support by DBT, our NIPGR core grant and DBT seed biology project for doing this analysis, and thank you very much.
case of mustard, Brassica juncea, if I want to do GBS, and I am having a population that is introgression lines actually, Brassica carnata derived introgression lines, and that lines is already in the F6 generation now. What is the possible constraints? Because in GBS commonly reels are using. So what is possible constraint if I use introgression lines? If it is possible to do the GBS, what could be the depth for the genotypes and the parents, sir, for the sequence?
Brassica johnsia.
Yes.
So first we have to see this complexity of the genome first. So Brassica, the GBS analysis you can utilize, but you have to do high coverage genome GBS, so like paired end sequencing and multiple sequencing. So you can multiplex instead of 96 sample, you can multiplex 24 or 48 samples. So that per sample sequencing data can be enriched more.
Sir, what would be the minimum number of genotypes I have to sequence?
So at least 192 will be required. But yeah, you have to see what kind of trait you are targeting. Your trait
It's quantitative trait, drought.
So then so you need more number of plant, at least 192.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
So why there is no much efforts on minor crops like millets, minor millets and minor
Now
pulse
DBT
crops?
has already initiated. So we are working also minor crop. I have not explained due to time constraint. So now DBT has one mega project is there, a Vigna genome sequencing project. So in all minor Vigna, so they are going to be sequenced and decoded, and all this association QTL mapping will be done for particular trait. Like in mung bean we are going for yellow mosaic virus, like in rice bean we are going for seed settling and earliness, and also anti-nutrient factors also. And millet also these efforts was already going on. So minor millets and also major millets. So minor millets and major millets is the same way, this decoding of genome. And majorly in millets, as we know, there is nutrition is the major issue. So now the efforts are there to